Hi.
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 So today I am joined by Chris Doel and we are talking pressure, the good, the bad and the ugly. So Chris, why should they tune in?
We have been talking for about an hour. We could have spoken about it for nearly three, about pressure and our own personal experience of it. There are some conclusive points that you can hone into in your own pressured situations. So definitely worth a download and a listen to, and see what your own conclusions bring to it. It'd be lovely to hear your comments.
Absolutely. That's the Big Idea Show. It's coming up next.
Brilliant.
Welcome along. Pressure, the good, the bad and the ugly is our topic today. And joining me in the hot seat is Chris Doel. Chris.
Hi.
Hi.
I've been really looking forward to this subject.
Good.
Yes.
Back again.
Because
you were on last time, a few months back, weren't you, talking about, we were talking about goals.
Yeah, we were talking about goals.
Yeah. So we've gone for something very positive and now we're talking about something negative.
Yeah.
But you have quite a positive spin on it, don't you?
Yeah.
So we're going to dive straight in. And I asked on Facebook a few yesterday.
Yeah, we got your comments.
I got some questions
that
I asked the people of Facebook, and we're going to come to those. But I'm going to ask you the same question to give you the context, and then I want to hear where you're at, and then we're going to hear what you think of some of the comments that they had, and then we're going to build on it.
Yep.
So my question was, what is pressure?
Yep.
Where and when do we experience it, and how do we overcome it? And secondly, where does it come from specifically? So is it something external or is it more internal?
Okay.
Is it self-created? So, and then finally, is it a good thing?
Yeah.
Because our title is The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. So we're going to try and see it from all sides. I think automatically there is this pressure, oh my God, that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But we'll see, we'll explore that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave you to it. Dive straight in.
Yeah, sure. My perceived idea of what pressure is all self-contained. I think we allow ourselves to put a certain amount of pressure on ourselves. I don't think that it's people have an external feeling of what the pressure actually is. So I don't think that if you came to me and says, Chris, I need this done in 1 hour, get it done to me, I wouldn't really perceive that as pressure.
Okay.
I would probably expect myself to be more stressed than I have to be to actually start getting on with it. So I don't really see pressure as a negative thing. I always like to switch the emotion, the negative emotion, and switch it around to a positive emotion. So fear and positivity, pressure. I always think that pressure is only for a finite amount of time.
Okay. So what is, in that situation then, what can you differentiate between the positive pressure and maybe it's a case of renaming it versus pressure that other people may experience as pressure, and maybe using we all put our own interpretation of it, as we'll see from other people's comments, but maybe what the everyday interpretation of pressure and maybe how you interpret it.
Okay, so I think the everyday pressure, I think everybody gets this, my boss is being really nasty to me today, and they internalize that, make it personal, and then put and apply a certain amount of pressure to do it. But that's what bosses do. They are trying to get the very best out of you, and it's that kind of pressure is normal. Yeah. But pressure on top of pressure on top of pressure. I mean, we work 5-6 days a week, 6.5 days a week, and then you've got family pressures, you've got emotional pressures, and you've got health pressures and everything else like that. And it actually just does sink you down a lot. So I like to take one pressure at a time. Okay, I've got business pressures, right? So I will open up that box of pressures when I need to concentrate and sit down and say, right, okay, I'm going to deal with this, okay? And then as soon as I'm done, I put that box away. Now, this is actually quite atypical of how different brains work. You get the one type of brain that likes to take one thing out of the box and deal with that one thing, put the box away, and then you've got the other thing that it will go, right, okay, I've got to deal with this, I've got to deal with this, got to deal with this, got to deal with this, and oh, look, there's a magpie over there. So it's about, really for me, is the focusing on what is the current pressure to focus on.
Okay.
And not confusing it with any other pressure or adding to a pressure.
Okay.
So it's pressure times 1, not times 8 or 16 or
okay. So
48.
you don't. So I guess in this thing of where do we differentiate between pressure as a negative versus a positive? A pressure in terms of a focus on one thing that is important, time intensive, critical, whatever it may be. For you, it doesn't experience you don't experience it as pressure as long as you can focus on it.
Yep.
But then if I was to say, right, and do this family thing, and do this social thing, and do this other work thing, would that then shift for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think if I was under a time crunch business-wise, like I am now, then I would stop and focus on that. But I've got a very good way of I don't mind getting up early to start on a project.
Yeah.
So the way that I deal with business pressures is slightly different to how I deal with emotional health and other pressures. Okay. So in a business pressure sense, what I will do is I will get up at 5:30 in the morning and start working on it when I've got no emails, I've got no phone calls, I've got no text messages. And waking up from sleep, I can actually then just go, right, this is what I'm going to do. And then I can just start working on it, and then all of a sudden it's 7:00 and I need my first cup of tea of the day.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's best to have a very clear head and just hit the ground running straight away. Emotional pressures you don't always control when those come in. So they come in like waves.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to deal with them. I find that when emotional pressures come in for me, I need to put other boxes away and then start dealing with that. Family pressures, obviously, they can happen at any time. So, you've got to pick up the kids from school. Oh, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And, could you go and do your nan shopping for you? Things like that. So I think there's a lot of compounding pressures. You'll have one key pressure in my experience, and then you'll have 15 other pressures on top. So I like to look at one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And then even if I look at that one thing, get a clearer idea of what that pressure is to get a better understanding of it. And then if I have another pressure, then I'll open that box, but I'll put the other box away. But I'll have less pressure asserted to that one thing because I've got a clearer idea about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you said there about the work differentiated from the emotional side, it sounds very much like for you, pressure in the traditional sense is, I guess, when you can't be in action, is when it becomes a negative pressure versus the pressure of I've got loads to do, but I know exactly what to do.
I think there's a big thing about people that always love to be busy. So I'm always busy, but I don't necessarily boast about being busy for busy's sake.
Yeah.
Because I'm a personal trainer, I hear a lot of stories every single day, and I see a lot of people that are going through things. So if somebody's overweight, for example, it's usually because they've got so many pressures that they can't take time out to do it. And this is the reason why having a personal trainer is a really good idea, is because then you don't have to think about your workout, you don't have to think about your nutritional goals or anything else like that. You've just got to be there and do.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes away that complexity, and that's what I aim to provide. I think if we start compounding other pressures on top of other pressures, then you lose sight of what you're doing. And you
can't take action.
You can't take action. So, it kind of takes one element away.
Yeah.
So that's how I like to think as pressure as something that just comes and goes in waves, rather than I'm always under pressure, I'm always busy, I'm always tired.
Yeah.
All that other noise that we don't get to, it complicates every picture.
And I guess that's always going to come from modularising, as you said, one particular thing that's a pressure. I'm dealing with this, that goes away. Right now I'm dealing with this. You're always going to have that new thing, the getting into something and then coming to the completion of it.
So but we don't always think like that. Going back to the two types of brains, some people have more linear thoughts and other people have more scattered thoughts.
Yeah.
Either way is fine. But I don't go into Morrison's or any other supermarket that goes out there and going to buy a loaf of bread and a pint of milk and start thinking about my tax return. That doesn't happen. I go in and I forget things though.
Okay.
So I try and be on point with those things.
Yeah. So I guess we've got kind of, I guess, the conclusion of tip number one here, haven't we? That to reduce the pressure is to try and compartmentalize each thing that you've got to think about.
Yeah, and prioritize.
And that's something that I guess I totally relate in how when I feel pressure, it's often because that I will be trying to hold too much in my head at one time.
Yeah.
And I have a tendency, that's how I kind of think, is trying to hold lots in and then finding the patterns and the solutions within it.
Mm-hmm.
But normally when the pressure comes, it's because there's too much. It's like trying to spin all the plates at one time.
It's very interesting you say that, because one of the things that I love studying is how people prioritize things. Have you ever written a to-do list that is far too long?
Yeah.
In the day?
Always,
You can't, you've got 50 things on there and you're only going to achieve one thing. So here's what I would do. Number one, set a smaller to-do list. I mean, you can have write your weekly goals out for the week. Label them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as in priority, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as urgency. So if you've got something that is a 5 urgent and a 5 priority, then you would then get that one thing done. It's actually, I can't remember the name of it, but it's an actual practiced diagram, priority matrix. Priority matrix. So I think it's the 1-1s that you do first. 1-1s instead of 5-5s. So you do the 1-1s and then you start to ignore the 5-5s.
Yeah.
Because they're not necessarily important.
But then is there, I guess I'm trying to think of a point where I'd have loads on, and trying to prioritise when is hard in itself sometimes. It's a bit like the whole writing you spend all your time doing your revision diary rather than just doing the revision.
Absolutely. I would say set your 1-1s, your top priority stuff, keep it to 3 items, because you can achieve 3 items in a day.
Yeah.
Make your bed, brush your teeth and brush your hair, and then leave the house, or hopefully have a shower. Yeah, but no, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but we'll need to come before, right?
But it's trying to get that first win, and I've spoken about this on your shows before. It's waking up and making sure you get that first win. Yeah. Recognizing when you get that first win, that's really important for me. So one of the things I always talk about is not snoozing my alarm. I snoozed it twice today. Falling into bad habits, but I like to make sure that I recognise the first win. Okay,
yeah, that's a nice one, isn't it? Because I think with pressure, it's like there's no light at the end of the tunnel sometimes. But if as soon as you see it, you're like, yes, it's in sight. And I guess that's what you're saying, isn't it? Put that first success in.
If you recognise it as a win, as the first thing in the day, then you've won something. Yeah. I think one of the things that people do is they have breakfast in the morning, but they don't really recognise it as a win because they could have spent 10 minutes extra in bed. Yeah. But they didn't. They actually prioritised their own health first to make sure that they've got up and had something to eat themselves, and it makes them feel better through the day. So if making the bed in the morning makes you feel better when you get to sleep at night so that you get into a nice warm bed, and you know that that's going to have a positive emotion, then do it.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit like acknowledgement, isn't it, as a way of overcoming.
But it's also almost paying that slightly forward. What's going to make me feel good at the end of the day? Yeah. What can I do in the morning to start that? So I have a shower in the morning. I hope everybody does. But one of the things that I like to do in the evening is I like to put my towel on the heated towel rail, so I know that when I wake up I've got a nice warm towel. Yeah. It's a silly thing, but I noticed myself getting annoyed at the fact that I wasn't doing it.
Okay, so it sounds like that. So that's very much being responsible for those things that would increase the pressure.
Yes.
Oh God, I can't find a towel. Or, oh, it's cold. And yeah, it's being responsible for pressure and the amount that you take on.
A small thing though can release the pressure. Yeah. Because if you know that you've got a bed to be made, if you've got a nice fresh bed to be to go back home to, you don't have to like reattach the covers and God knows what else. Yeah. That actually is a pressure. Oh God, I've stripped the bed. Now, how many times have we got back from somewhere at 11 o'clock at night and you've forgotten that you've just put all of the sheets in the tumble dryer? That pressure at night time is crippling. You are tired, and then you think, I've got to put all of this bed together, and for some reason it becomes such a huge task. And I know a lot of people will actually relate to that. Yeah. Because it's always a disappointing thing, and it puts a lot of pressure on you before we go to bed.
Yeah. Okay. This is a good point. Good tip number 1. We're going to be back after a little break. Chris Doel is here. Chris Doel Personal Training. We're talking pressure, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We were going to come in the first link, weren't we, to the comments that people had left, but
we fell down the rabbit hole again.
We did, but it's all good. We had tip number 1.
Yes,
so,
we had tip number 1.
We had takeaway point right at the beginning. Normally we say it at the end, but so this is good.
Yep.
So we're going to go through this, and then we're going to talk about releasing the pressure as well, because it's all about being in action, right? We can talk about it, and the whole thing is, as we'll hear, everyone has different opinions, but what can we do about it?
Yep.
But let's go to these first.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to skim these. So PaulJane Orange says, I think that pressure is a good thing for some. I used to leave things at work until close to the deadline to give myself a challenge. It's the idea of adrenaline, isn't it? And if there's no pressure to deliver, then sometimes you don't get around to doing it at all. What do you want me? Should I go through all of these, or do you want to give some comments?
I think this actually brings up a good point. It's basically. Thank you, PaulJane Orange. It's a beautiful name. Right, I think here now. I used to work in an office. I did it for 14 years, and I completely understand what you're trying to say here. It's the self-justification that you are the right person for the job, in my opinion, on this one. And you know that something will take an hour to do, or a minute to do, or 5 or 10 minutes to do, and you want to see how quickly you can get it done. Well, you're actually only really setting yourself up for failure. I did a talk about on another podcast about the fear of success versus the fear of failure. Yeah. Now, what you're actually referring to here is the pressure of failure here, and you're trying to get as you say, an adrenaline rush of trying to get it done. Well, what happens if another phone call comes in? What if another pressure comes in that then knocks you off course? Yeah. If the last minute jobs only do take 1 minute, and how many last minute jobs do we leave to the last part of Friday?
Yeah. This is all good as long as your priority list is your finite priority list. Nothing else is going to come in. You know that it's only going to take you 5 minutes, but if it does become 10, suddenly your whole thing's thrown out if you're leaving. Yeah, it's a good point.
But I think here, what you're talking about here on this last minute job, that job will feed on to somebody else. Okay, so imagine that I'm an employee, you're my boss for a second, and said, I need this done by 5 o'clock. Yeah. You wait until 4:59 to get it done. You've now created another pressure for your boss, which will then advertently create you another pressure at another time, because there's a lack of trust at that point. So if you get that pressure out of the way sooner rather than later, then you make for better working relationships and less pressure overall.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And I think, and the thing is with this, it's all our own interpretation, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Of stuff. But it's nice, it's really interesting. And the reason I wanted to come to these is because we could talk about our experience of pressure, but asking these people these questions gave that insight of, oh yeah, I've not considered it like that, or that's not where I would have gone, but they've got a good point. And I think it's the same thing, isn't it? It's if we have the full picture, we're never going to have 100% full picture, but all sides, as many as possible, we then have the choice, don't we? We go,
Absolutely.
in some situations, yes, this is fun, I'm going to do that because I know that's not going to put pressure on someone else. And in others, you go, actually, you know what, in this situation, it's far too important. So,
how many times do we say, I've got some time, I could do this now, but we talk ourselves out of it? Mel Robbins is somebody that I absolutely love. She's on YouTube. Definitely check her out. If you're listening to this, definitely check her out. Yeah. And she's got a bit on what she talks about as the 5-second rule. Yeah. And if you've read her books and the material, crack on. It's amazing. Now, one of the things that she puts is the 5-second rule. If you've got 20 minutes to get ahead of the game and you think, do you know what, I can get that bit done, then don't dwell on it too long. Count down in your head. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Action. Go.
And this is quite interesting because I guess this is essentially what you were saying in the first part, which was there's the pressure of the actual things you have to do, and then there's our emotional or interpretation of the pressure, which is, oh, but should that come first or should this come first? Well, by the time you've thought about it and gone round in circles, you could have just done it.
Yes.
And which I guess is what you're saying with the 5-second rule, isn't it?
Making things over-analytical. Yeah. I would rather get something done early and then have time for revisions afterwards than have no time at all to do revisions.
And you can still challenge yourself and go, right, I've only got this amount of time. I'm giving myself an hour to do this task, and I may have a week before it needs to be delivered, but I'm going to challenge myself to an hour, and you still get that adrenaline of beating yourself at your own game. So
I would say that I think that's a nice round off for that particular one.
Okay. Cool. Right, we're going to go to the next comment I've got here is so PaulJane Orange is kind of time related, which is one element of pressure that instantly comes to mind. But this is quite interesting because Ben Barnett has come at it from a completely different point of view, which is the pressure that comes from the importance of a task. So he says, personal belief as becoming ignorant to certain facts may disappear pressure, i.e. when you have to do a particular job and you don't realise that it's the person you're doing that job for is a CEO of a really important company, and actually this could be life-changing for your business or your profession or for your career, whatever it may be, then that pressure, because that pressure doesn't exist, then the importance of the thing is, I guess another example I thought of from this was like a pro footballer doing a penalty. They all know how to take a penalty. That's what they do day in, day out. But when you have to take a penalty in a World Cup final, suddenly it's very different because you're putting a huge amount of significance on it, even though the time is exactly the same. And
it's a job that you do every day.
The task is the same, but there's how the significance of it. And I guess what I heard from this is this idea of the does pressure increase, because someone else says, Andrew Phil also says a similar point around a limited amount of pressure can probably help, like before an exam or at a sports event. It can help awareness. So does pressure increase our focus, or does it haze our judgment, like mess up our judgment because the emotional side comes in and takes over the practical side?
Depends whether you feel guilty about certain pressures. Yes, you've got two types of people that either thrive under pressure or they fold under pressure. Now, I love pressure because it's a negative emotion. I love loving negative emotions and switching them around to positives because they it means that nothing is impossible.
Yeah.
But on this particular point, if you allow something to be to increase in pressure, yes, okay, you're giving it more significance. But if that significance is like, oh, I need to go and pay that bill today, and then you leave it until 11:59 that night, like people do with their tax returns, is that making you feel better at the end of it? No, nobody likes paying tax bills, but it's a thing that they have to do. And whether you did it at 8 o'clock 2 months before, or whether you did it at 11:59 on the deadline, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Because you've still done it.
Yeah.
And the later you leave things, is you get more emotional pressures. I mean, us guys, I'm a dad, and Rachel, my wife, has this this list of jobs that is never tangible. So I asked you to do this 6 months ago, and then when it gets to that 6 month mark, that's when I do it. So I think she's definitely got used to it. So I asked you for this 6 months ago, and then I'll be like, oh right, okay, she might have asked once or twice or something like that. I think people can over emphasize pressure when it comes to simple tasks.
Yeah.
And one of the things that people do is us as individuals are the first thing that we ignore. So if we are busy and under time pressure, we won't go and look after ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's actually quite significant, because how are you supposed to function if you can't look after yourself when you're under that amount of pressure?
Yeah.
I would rather take a little bit of the pressure off and make sure that I'm fed and I'm watered and I'm well.
Yeah.
To make sure that I make the right decisions and take the right actions.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I guess is being skilled and being confident in your own abilities, isn't it? Which I guess a lot of pressure comes down, which is where I guess with what Ben's saying about suddenly realising you've got a huge opportunity, and this particular client, for example, could be someone that steps you onto the next level of what you're doing.
Yeah.
But you have that lacking confidence in yourself. which I guess is what you're saying. If you don't give yourself that time, it's also that, isn't it? It's like more on the doing and less on the you've already got it. You're already there.
I think pressure and anxiety are very closely linked. So the more pressure you put yourself under, the more anxiety that you might have for messing the job up.
Yeah.
So to put it reflectively, I would say I would rather be really, really busy in the morning and be done by midday.
Yeah.
And have the afternoon to reflect on the work that I'd done in the morning, than leave my work in the afternoon to then interrupt my sleep.
Yeah.
I found that if I change my working pattern around, then I have the better opportunity to get the most fulfilling sleep, because I may only sleep 5 hours a night, which is about right. So 5 to 6 hours, maybe 6.5 hours, but during the week, normally I'm working 15 hours a day, roughly. So I would... that's not a boast on how busy I am. I know that that's not a boast on how busy I am at all. It's just a current fact at the moment. So I would say that we allow pressure to be involved in our lives because it does make things a little bit more exciting, but we also love the anxiety as well, because it gives us a sense of worth and a mild sense of neededness. Don't think that that's a negative thing.
Does this come down to the significance that we give to a task, especially if it's do something for someone else? Then there's that increased anxiety, but that's as a result of, if I don't do it, then they're not going to be able to do what they need to do because I'm needed.
Yeah, you're essential. I'm essential to that. I'm essential to that task. I'm essential to that goal. Why do I? And then basically, you're saying to that person that's asked you to do that, I am better than you because I've left it to the last minute. It doesn't require my full attention. Yeah,
and this is something maybe a different topic, but I find quite interesting around timekeeping, and it's more timekeeping rather than time management. But when you make this idea of making an appointment, I'm not going to take us too off on a different track, but I'm just kind of say that if you make an appointment and then always being late is kind of saying, I don't respect your time, that you're here on this time, but I'm not. But it's fine because you can wait for me. But we're going to go off on a different tangent.
We are. We're going to go on to importance.
But this is maybe another topic for discussion. If you want to hear about time and our different relationships with time, let us know.
Yes.
And we'll put it in for another one. Okay, let's... we're going to have to come to the end of this link in a little bit, but I just want to touch on the remaining comments that we had and just kind of give a summary of all, really. Patricia Reddy says, pressure equals unrealistic expectations. Yeah,
we touched a bit on this, didn't we, a little bit before. It's like making a smaller to-do list. A lot of people, if we're really honest, we probably have about 3 hours worth of tasks. If we only had one thing to do at a time, we probably only got 3 hours worth of tasks. To do in a day. And if you were left alone and you had no phone, no internet and everything else, no stress around you, and you just had to do those 3 tasks, you could concentrate and get those 3 tasks done quite quickly. It's the other noise, it's the other stress, pressures, anxiety and everything else like that, social media interrupting you, people messaging you 24/7 and all of that gets interrupted like some kind of big spaghetti.
Which kind of, I guess, and you're saying that as social media is in the external things, but there's also within that kind of, which leads quite nicely onto Ollie DC's point, which is around pressure for me most often comes from within. And that going, oh God, have I done this well enough? Oh God, what am I going to go on to next? And like I said, it probably only takes 3 hours, but you worry about whether you're doing it right. And which, for me, a lot of the time, it's like, which one should I do next? Which one is most important?
Well, everything's important because it's your perception. If you're doing a job for somebody, it's their perception of the work that they do for you. If your boss gives you a job that they've put you under pressure for, then you've got to do it. Don't leave it to the last minute because they'll lose respect and increase pressure the next job that comes along and the next job that comes along and the next job that comes along. And it's always very disappointing when you hear from your from your boss, I'm not angry, I'm disappointed, because that just stings that little bit more. I believe 100% that we internalize our pressure. 100% agree with you, Ollie. It often comes within, and we almost give it a monstrous type feeling. So we always make this purple-headed monster of like I'm going to make this so much bigger than what it is. But if you really concentrate on the actual facts of something, it's not.
Kind of releasing the significance.
Well, yeah, it's making that monster appear like a kitten.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got 3 hours of work to do today, but if I focus...
And also, at the end of the day, there are some, in certain professions and certain things where it is critical.
Mm-hmm.
And you could say certain things are critical. Oh, if you don't do this job, you might lose a client. But at the end of the day, is it life-threatening? I guess there's some of that comes out. We make it out...
Desensitizing
it's so over the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
We add this meaning and this pressure to ourselves. I often have kind of recognised myself adding more pressure to something to give myself more, to give it more importance, to motivate myself to do it, rather than just going, well, it needs to be done, or you know what, it doesn't need to be done, but you make it a big deal to get yourself to do it, where otherwise you might go, yeah.
When I was in an office, I used to put the pressure on that I had to have all my shirts ironed, and I would always do it on Sunday at 9:00 for an hour and a half watching some kind of sports program. But it's
all self-created, right?
Yeah, it's all self-created. So, but I always wanted to know that I had a fresh, crisp shirt the next day, and I always hated the fact that I would have to iron on a Wednesday night. So I'd always make sure that I'd had 5, 7, 10 shirts ironed. It's silly things, but we always have that pressure.
Yeah. Well, it comes down to values, doesn't it? Which is a whole nother topic.
It's a whole nother topic, but let's move on.
And we'll just finish off with these last two before we're going to have to take a break, which is Dave J. Monk says, pressure is how diamonds are made, which is quite a nice positive one. And
absolutely.
Then Eralp, I know I probably haven't pronounced, I'm sorry, Seb, I've got your pronounce your surname. She always says, no one can pronounce my surname. No. So she's giving me a get out. She says, her first comment was, I feel like a diamond, which is quite nice.
You are.
Well, you are, Seb. And then her second comment was, we need to differentiate between pressure and stress. Pressure makes or breaks us because of the stress it causes. Too much of everything or anything is bad for you, but you cannot live a life without a little bit of pressure. Because I guess if we're talking, Dave's saying it in a very practical, scientific point of view, like pressure makes diamonds, it makes things.
That's a very physical sense, yeah.
And if there was no pressure, would we evaporate or disintegrate? I know it's a silly kind of thing to say, but
maybe
if we're talking like there is natural pressure on us by the atmosphere.
Yeah, I think
and we're going sciencey, but
we're not glass. We're not. Yeah, I get that, but we're not jars of sand. We don't need the pressure of the glass to hold us in.
Yeah.
We are free to do whatever we want to do. Pressure is how diamonds made. Yeah, absolutely. There's a calculation for that. Heat and pressure makes diamonds. It's brilliant. Pressure and stress. We could probably talk for another 2 hours on pressure and stress. Stress makes us.
I guess stress. Going back to the point you said about when does pressure become positive and when does the switch become negative? I guess it's like pressure, and then when you reach your maximum capacity,
full pressure.
Is probably what most people would go, right, now it's stress versus pressure. How a lot of people are talking about it here can be positive in terms of increasing your focus, increasing your importance to a task, therefore making you do it. And stress is that switch. No, now it's too much.
I think that people can respond positively to pressure. I haven't really seen many people that have responded positively to stress. But stress and pressure is all internalized. I think that stress makes us ill. I believe stress has put people in the hospital.
Which is something Andrew says, well, it's like
pressure. Would pressure put us in the hospital unless we're in one of those pressure chambers? I don't think. But I mean, are we going to put ourselves under so much pressure that it causes us not to sleep? I think that's the differentiation between pressure and stress. I put myself under I put myself under an adequate amount of pressure so that it doesn't cause me stress. Because stress is poisonous. It creates negative hormones, and then it affects your sleep, it affects your diet, it affects your exercise, and everything else like that. I would, when people come to me and say, "Oh, I've eaten something really bad over the weekend," I went, "Okay, fall forward. You can't blame yesterday's mistake on today's result. You have to look at it." So I kind of like when people say, "Oh, I've had a pizza today last weekend. I can't get away today." So, well, you can't you can't feel bad for yesterday's mistakes. You've just got to try and get a more positive feel for it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, this is a good place to end part 2.
Part 2.
We'll come back for part 3.
Part 3.
Idea Show today, discussing pressure, the good, the bad, the ugly, with Chris Doel, personal training.
Indeed.
And we've gone massively into depth.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
We've explored it from every which way, every different angle.
Yep.
But now we always like to finish on a positive and actions and things that we can be doing to overcome pressure when it does get to that point where it's negative, it maybe threatens to become stress.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm quite interested to hear how you release pressure on yourself, or kind of what you might advise people that you work with. But also if you have any specific examples, because you've been working on loads of stuff recently that is the next level of pressure, really. Like
Absolutely.
You've always been great with dealing with pressure, but it's suddenly like you've gone, right, I'm taking the next step of significant progress in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And how you dealt with that pressure. Because there's a different thing, isn't there? If you know how to handle pressure in a job where you're doing the same thing every day, then this is just the normal level of pressure, and at this point it'll ease. Whereas if you have no idea at what point the pressure's going to end, it can be a lot more scary, because you're like, whoa, this could just keep building and building.
Yeah.
And what do you do?
Yeah, so I mean, it's no secret that I've managed to take a quantum leap as far as pressure goes recently, purchasing True Gym. And now I really kind of stepped out of my comfort zone. And this was a really, really flippant thing I said.
What about buying the gym?
About buying the gym. Yeah. It was like... it was something that we were discussing, like when I first met you about 4 years ago. Now it's a reality. It's really quite weird. So I always wanted to buy a gym because I knew that it would be like continuous income, and it would last for a really long time. And as long as the interest was there, it would be just a constant. It was a constant income. So if I couldn't do my personal training for whatever reason, then I would have that in. So that was my pressure on that. Now I basically quite flippantly said, well, the bosses came down and said, how much to buy the gym then? And he went, are you serious? I was like, and then saying it made it more real. So then the pressure was to get it all organised. And 3 months later, this project, which has kept me away for 14 or 15 hours a day, most days, getting up at 6, not coming home until after 9. I think if you put yourself under that much pressure, you have to love the outcome. So it's like organising a wedding. People lose sight of what the outcome is. So you've got to love the outcome. So you will love your other half. But you kind of lose yourself in the pressure of the flowers, the table decorations and everything else like that.
Would you say with that, though, as well as loving the outcome or looking forward to the outcome, also loving the process? Like, did you enjoy the process?
Yeah, no, you have to love the process. If you don't love the process, and this is, if you don't like the process of business deals, of personal development, and your own objectives, your own goals, if you don't love the process, you'll never succeed. It's as simple as that.
So is that where it was pressure, but it wasn't pressure because it wasn't just pressure to get to an end point. You were consciously or unconsciously always thinking, I'm going to be a diamond by the end of this, and therefore almost like the obstacle is the opportunity, or that thing of, if you ask for strength, the universe will give you things to make you strong. Was that a conscious thing that this is a bit of a not particularly nice situation, or this is a big bit of pressure, but wow, what have I got to learn about myself as a result of how I deal with this and actually overcoming it?
First of all,
not to put words in your mouth, but was that, or is it like, no, you didn't think that at the time?
Do you know what? I genuinely followed my nose on all of it. For every pressure, for every problem, there's a response and there's a conclusion. So, in 4 years of me being a personal trainer at that gym, I learned that place was always going to be in my life, one way or another.
Yeah.
So I don't. There's not a job in that gym that I wouldn't do. Mm-hmm. Painting or moving equipment around, anything cleaning, it doesn't matter. I would do every single job that was there. So my thought was, well, I was drawn to this place anyway, so let's go ahead and do it. Now, people put off living their dreams because I will do that one day. Now, I'm 32. I don't think many people do this level of thing. They either do it right at the very beginning or they do it at 40 or 50 and then say, all right, now's my time to live the dream and things like that. And I disagree wholeheartedly for that. If you've got an opportunity you think that will be great, go and take it with both hands, because that one flippant comment has now got me what I wanted.
Yeah. Did you know, so it sounds like, getting what you want or following your dream is more than likely to come with a certain amount of pressure, because to have something you don't have is going to require you to do something you haven't done, therefore step out of your comfort zone. Did you know it was going to be as much pressure as it was beforehand, or was that new?
That was new. I want to push myself epically. And what I found about myself is I could trust myself under stressful situations. That's quite big. That if you start trusting yourselves to make the right decisions at the right time, then you can then go and make bigger decisions. Small bits. Now, okay, it was an objective of mine to buy the gym. It was an objective of mine to be a personal trainer. It's not my complete dream. Talk about my complete dream, it would take hours upon hours. But I've got sections of this that I want to achieve. And I feel like the pressure of doing that made me a better person. And I've changed in the last 6 months for the better. Because of it. I see things a lot more simply now as to yes or no, making the right decision, not faltering on a job. It makes me more driven. For example, this morning I got in, trained a client, sent all of my emails out by 9:10, and set today pretty much did the main part of my job by 10 o'clock before my next client. So I actually felt a great sense of achievement of that, and it kind of releases any pressure that I had in the day. And then, which was a good thing, because as soon as 10 o'clock came, I had appointment after appointment after appointment after appointment after appointment, and then I was stacked throughout the rest of the day. I don't think, unless somebody made me a cup of tea night today, then thank you, Lois, for that cup of tea at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Unless I got people around me making sure that I do simple things like have a cup of tea, or make sure I've got a bottle of water around with me, or saying, Chris, have you eaten today? And then, because I'll work until I completely stop functioning. And it's not because I take that pressure on, it's just for the fact that I'm passionate about what I do. So if you're passionate and you enjoy and you love the process of what you do, then that kind of neutralises the pressure of the job.
I guess you wouldn't describe it, you just describe it as...
It's not pressure, it's an enjoyment, loving the process.
Okay, so what if, but on those times then, because we started this, didn't we? We got to actually conclude what we said.
Of course,
what we said, how about releasing the pressure? So
how about releasing pressure?
Whether it's an example and things that you do with clients, or what you've personally done at those times where that pressure was at its most, how you got through it. Like, I guess having you talk about kind of loving the process, that's kind of a bigger context for taking on something big and not feeling as pressured. But you also said in an earlier link about it being peaks and troughs. Even if you love it, there's going to be times where it becomes more. So I guess in a specific isolated times, how can we release the pressure?
Pressure. Okay. Well, yeah. Stopping. Silly thing I did. I used to take. I used to take my laptop home. I left it at work for a long weekend, and there was no better feeling than just to leave that there. At the time, there was no real massive pressure to get something done. But the time off that I had made me come back at Monday morning, straight on it, and I had a clearer objective of what I needed to do. Friday evening, I have a business partner. During the week, we wind each other up chronically, and then we get to Friday night, and we might go for a quick drink after the last bit of work, or we might go out for a little bit of dinner in the evening, and we'll go through and we'll discuss the week and just say what worked and what didn't work, and it makes for a very dynamic partnership at that point. So releasing the pressure is actually talking about the week that you've had to again desensitize yourself to it, and then being honest with people as well, saying you wound me up. You wound me up on this occasion. This annoyed me. Take ownership for that. Okay, I'm sorry. Or do you know what? Thursday you did this for me without me asking you to. Thank you. So you kind of like have a little bit of a little bit of a conversation. So releasing the pressure is actually can be as simple as saying, being polite, saying sorry and thank you and meaning it. Taking responsibility for your actions as well, 100% of that. I would say, even celebrating the end of the pressure. I wouldn't go as far as saying if you're under a lot of pressure, go out for a couple of drinks, because the pressure will then start manifesting itself into something else, and then you'll end up being very, very drunk and very, very hungover, which leads to negativity anyway. I usually tend to celebrate the end of the week, and quantify the amount of work I've done. I wouldn't say that I've had a stressful day and then go for an alcoholic drink or alcohol, because it's a negative breeding emotion at that point. I will always say, right, okay, that pressure's done. Or, we may have one big pressure that goes on, but you've solved 50 pressures during the week, and I appreciate that. I feel solved 50 things, and I've just got one overriding pressure of it. I think it's recognizing what is the most important pressure to get away with, and at the end of the day, it shouldn't affect your sleep, it shouldn't affect your family, it shouldn't affect anything else. So, and it does inevitably, but it shouldn't too much.
I like what you said about speaking with that other person that is maybe part of it, or even using someone as a kind of to bounce something off if it's an internal pressure. And speaking, it's kind of, I guess I'm going back to what we were talking about, diamonds and the kind of air pressure and making it very practical, but this idea of pressure is all around us and we put it on ourselves, and then to speak it out is almost like whatever that negative feeling inside, or whether it's stress or however it manifests for us, speaking it out and getting it out of you is maybe the first step to release it. It's kind of like letting out that little bit of gas. In a very practical sense. Opening your mouth now, let it out to a certain extent.
And if you're trying to explain negative emotions with somebody that has perhaps done you wrong, or explaining positive emotions to people that that have done you right, is really important, because then it leads for more healthier relationships. Internalizing your own stresses and pressures, and you could be annoyed with your brother for something that they did at the age of 6 that has no relevance now. Why carry that pressure and stress around with you? Not pressure, but stress around with you. I think, I'm fine with you, Andrew, don't worry. But what I'm saying is that, we do hold grudges. And sometimes actually just airing them, saying, and it doesn't matter about the outcome of that, but speaking out loud your stresses and speaking out aloud your successes are equally very, very healthy things.
So maybe I'm just going to think. Well, I'm not going to let us go off on another.
No, I know, because we do this.
But this it kind of sounds a little bit like when we experience pressure. Is it an opportunity to look at maybe where relationships are out of line, and be it a work relationship, like you said, with your boss putting too much pressure on you, rather than going, look, this, I can't work productively in this level, or you know, if you keep on taking on that pressure, that, you know, you might have a boss that keeps piling on more because they're like, oh well, they can do it, so they must need more.
Yeah.
And so if we're starting to feel pressure, is it an opportunity to look and go, where are my relationships with other things? And this could be a relationship with yourself. So this is something that I know. I'll always put more pressure on myself of more things I need to do. And it's my relationship with myself of giving myself a break that I need to look at. And when we experience the pressure, it's a warning sign, like that little pressure gauge. When it goes up to red, you go, oh, I need to adjust something in the boiler to rebalance it. And so maybe that's a way of having the feelings of pressure being an opportunity to change something in a deeper level thing of relationship.
I think it gives you a moment for reflection, is pausing the pressure or just acknowledging where people have helped you and where they haven't. So pressure is by no means a bad thing. It is a good thing. You're never going to go through life living through yoga sessions all the time. It's not going to be Zen all the time. It's always going to be pressure at some point. I think it's how we manage the pressure and how we communicate pressure with people. Throwing your hands up and saying, I can't deal with this, because that's when pressure leads to stress, I think is negative at that point.
You've left it too late.
You've left it too late. If it gives you an opportunity to say, Steve, we need to do this because you're putting me under too much pressure. I need to share this workload. I need to share this. And I've just realised myself that I've allowed myself to put too much pressure on myself, and I need to realign that tomorrow morning.
This is all good, and this is what I like about the show.
This is good.
We're there too, going, oh yeah, actually I've not considered that.
Yeah.
It always happens, doesn't it? We always have at least one.
Sometimes I do speak a lot I do speak a lot, and then it just takes me during these talks to kind of recognise that maybe I've missed a couple of things out.
Yeah.
But that's a positive thing. Yeah, it's a good point. And I hope that some people find out what's something useful through this that you can implicate it in your life.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're going to have to come to a conclusion now, because we will talk all night.
Yeah.
Any last take-home messages that people can go and apply, or next time that pressure gauge starts going into the red and they start going, that they should be thinking about? Or what would you think about for yourself, maybe?
So if I'm under a lot of pressure, I tend to listen to music when I start doing something. I get these really big pair of headphones and I just chuck on my headphones and I'll listen to some really loud music and ignore everybody and keep my head down and get the work done. So everybody's got their own coping method. So recognise your own coping method for one, right? So if it means you going to somewhere quiet to get something done, then get it done. If it means that you have to walk away from the job, take a walk, or go and get a sunbed, go and get your nails done, or something like something as silly as that. You should take a pause for the moment, then to reassert your pressure. If it means going to take a nap, things like that. I think my biggest tip, if you are dealing with a lot of pressure, is write a very small to-do list. Don't overcomplicate it, and just achieve those 2 or 3 things. Yeah. Make sure that once you've done those things, recognise it as a win. Separate it and try and chip away at that pressure, which will chip away at the stress. Yeah. And then by lunchtime, see what you've achieved. Yeah. So I was never very good at doing task lists or anything else like that during my office hours, but I'm brilliant at doing it now because I know where the hours are gone.
Yeah, responsibility for those hours.
Yeah, responsibility and accountability for those hours as well. Nice.
Chris, this has been awesome stuff. I'm sure the people out there have got loads from it, released the pressure.
Yes.
So this has been the pressure. No, not the pressure. Pressure, just in general. The good, the bad and the ugly.
Good, the bad and the ugly.
With Chris Doel. Chris, thank you very much.
Thanks, Liù.
See you later.
Bye.
Thank you very much to everyone out there for listening, and big thank you to Chris Doel for joining me for our discussion about pressure. I hope you found it really useful. I hope you found some insight there. As we said during it, it's really a case of just looking at the topic as a whole, and experiencing and just recognizing more quickly when you're at that point where maybe you need to release the pressure or do something different. There's no right or wrong, is there? We're never going to completely get away from pressure, be it something we see as a positive or a negative, but it's just recognizing and moving forward quicker. So hopefully you found that interesting. And yeah, thank you to Chris, and also thank you to our sponsors. We have GoMonkey, the web app for parents and grandparents to help them get their kids out and about. Those guys will be going big launch very soon, so stay tuned, especially if you're in the southeast of England, Kent, Folkestone areas. We have Meticulous Media, B2B content providers, providing content for loads of different industries, really giving a good outsider's point of view so that your customers can really engage with your content, whether they know about it technically or not. We have Bullfish Glass Services. They are bespoke glass manufacturers based right here in Folkestone, providing really custom and really high quality glass for your interior design or construction needs. And we have QBH Solutions. These guys are compliance and HR support, offering you no nonsense advice that isn't rocket science, making it nice and easy, digestible, so you can understand it and get on with doing the things that really matter. So big thank you to them. Without them, we wouldn't be able to bring you these videos. So big thanks all around. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Chris. Please do leave your comments and your thoughts if you want to hear more of a certain topic. If you have ideas for things we should be discussing, then drop them in the comments, whatever platform you're listening on, and we'll see you soon. Bye.